Thank you all for joining us for the second roundtable of the 2018 season. We're joined by media members in the room and also via conference call. Would also like to say hello and thank you to everyone who was able to join us via stream on the Chicago Fire Facebook page. So for participating media, we'll do a loop around the circle. If you could please keep it to one question and then a follow-up, and then we'll go to the phone, and then we'll do a second loop around. If you could please use the mic when you're asking the question, that would be much appreciated. And then if anyone is on the phone, if you could please mute your line until you're ready to ask the question, that would be great. And with that, we will turn it to Fire President and General Manager Nelson Rodríguez for opening statement.
Thank you, Eunice, and welcome to everybody who's joining us today on the live stream. Appreciate those who've been able to make the effort to be with us in person, and I believe Paul Kennedy is on the line, so thank you, Paul, for joining. Before I start, I do just want to send out happy birthday wishes to John Hosens. It's our understanding that John is fully recovered and healthy. He's with ADO Den Haag in Holland. You know, it's really unfortunate how John's time with our club came to a close last year. So personally, on behalf of the club, want to wish John a happy birthday and even more fantastic and healthy season for him. You know, I read one time, and I believe it was attributed to Antonio Banderas, that expectation is the mother of all frustration. And I believe that's what we feel right now, is the frustration based on the expectations we had, but also the frustration that we currently feel about our own inability to consistently play well and win on a regular basis. I think how we handle that frustration will ultimately determine our outcome this year. If we remain committed to competing against our opponents rather than against ourselves, if we remain committed to being uplifting to one another rather than waiting to see who may let us down or assign blame, if we remain committed to individually doing our job and to doing it well, then we have a chance. You know, from my perspective, everything is still right in front of us. We have 12 games in the season, 10 are against the East. We have the US Open Cup semifinal. If we win that, we get to host the championship game. So it's all right there. And for me, it's simple. It's up to us. And I believe in us.
Thanks, Nelson. And we will start going around the table for questions. Guillermo Rivera, The Athletic, would you like to start us off?
Okay.
Please use them.
After adding a central defender and some pace on the wings with Edwards and Del Greco, you mentioned before that you were also looking for a number 10 and possibly a goalkeeper. How close are you to bringing those pursuits to fruition? And what do Hassler and Del Greco, when do you think they'll be available for?
The first part, we currently have 2 standing offers made for 2 different players in Europe, one of whom is what we would classify and characterize as a number 10. One way or the other, we expect resolution on those offers this week. And, you know, I can't lay odds at this point. We have felt good in the past, and things haven't happened. We've been skeptical in the past, and things have happened. Regarding Hassler and Del Greco's visas, we hope and anticipate that Nico Hassler, because to a certain extent we now have 3, with Nemanja Nikolic, known as Nico, and Nicolas Del Greco, known as Nico. But Nico Hassler, we expect to have his clearance in line for Saturday's game. Del Greco's will be a little bit longer.
Would goalkeeper be a position you're still looking to possibly improve in this year?
You know, we are always looking to improve across all our lines. It's a tricky situation, and because Patrick will come back, but it's still unknown how much longer that will be. If the right situation arises where we can improve across any of our lines, we will always look to do so.
I want to ask you about some of the, I guess, tension within fans right now. Are you satisfied with how the club handled sort of the incidents and the situation with the Sector Latino and everything around that?
Well, regarding Sector Latino, that decision was made and communicated on June 29th, and that remains as is.
Is there anything, were you surprised by the reaction from some of the fans, maybe the negative reaction?
You know, before I came to Chicago, I always admired Chicago sports fans. And since I've been here, nothing has changed in that regard. I think Chicago has among the best sports fans in the world. And I think Chicago Fire fans are fantastic. And I think they proved it again on Saturday, that they are constantly pushing the team in a positive manner and supporting the team. And I think that's one of the ultimate measures of a fan, at least in my perspective. You know, we had an incident Saturday during the game. We have to review that incident. We will. Once we've thoroughly reviewed that incident, if a decision needs to be made, or we'll make it at that time. But regarding Sector Latino, I think our position is clear.
Español. Quería retomar un poco el tema sobre el sector latino. No es solo ya el sector latino, la sección 8, sección 8, también incluso es mucho más crítica que el sector latino respecto a toda la problemática, tanto con el presidente como con usted, pidiendo la marcha de ambos. Piensa que, y se viene además una posible final de la US Open Cup, donde necesitan Chicago Fire, obviamente, todos sus aficionados, sobre todo estas dos barras. ¿Piensa el Chicago Fire? ¿Se podrían prescindir de las dos barras? O sea, sección A podría también seguir el mismo camino si sigue apoyando una barra que ya está completamente eliminada del panorama del Toyota.
After the preamble, the essential question was, could Section 8 find itself in a similar situation as Sector Latino if it continues to support Sector Latino? Antes de nada, la seguridad es para todos y nunca vamos a poner la seguridad de todos los aficionados en cuestión. Y este asunto ocurre sobre eso, tenemos el código de conducta que lamentablemente el sector latino no podía seguirla y lo violando varias veces, y hablamos con ellos varias veces y intentamos. Sin embargo, sus acciones no cambiaban. Que algunos quieren decir que yo tengo que estar afuera, lo acepto. Yo lo acepto como parte de mi trabajo, pero no pierdo ningún momento de dormir por la decisión que tomamos, porque esa decisión lo vamos a tomar siempre. Siempre vamos a ir para proteger a toda la afición. Just a brief translation. I accept that there are signs or fans who disagree with me, but I don't lose any sleep over the decision that we made. We will never compromise fan safety, and this is an issue of fan safety. We gave Sector Latino various opportunities to correct its behavior. It continued, and our decision was made. And we won't change. We will always put fan safety first.
Pero la sección 8 puede seguir el mismo camino si sigue apoyando. ¿Qué tan importante es para el Chicago Fire tener a su grupo de fans?
The question is, can Section 8 follow suit? Mira, la sección 8 hasta ahora no tuvo los mismos problemas. No, ellos aceptaban y compartían con el código de conducta. Tenemos que mirar y estamos revisando los videos, las fotos, la gente que estaba alrededor para ver quién participó en la situación que ocurrió el sábado. Y después que tenemos esa información, veremos lo que ocurre. Pero también tiene que haber un reconocimiento que hay hinchas que están preocupados por las acciones de estas barras y que en el momento ellos no se sientan tan seguros por las acciones de las barras. Y eso también uno lo tiene que tomar en cuenta. Para nosotros siempre es mirar en cómo podemos tener un ambiente alegre y con seguridad. Y los que no pueden apoyar eso, no hay lugar para ellos. So I'll do my best to remember what I said and translate it accurately. Again, the question was, could Section 8 find itself in the same way? I said, up to now, Section 8 has not had the same violations of the fan code of conduct, and there have been no issues with Section 8. We had the situation Saturday. We need to review that situation to see if there was any involvement, and if so, then we'll deal with that at that time. But I reiterate that fan safety will always be primary for us. We would love for there to be an environment that is festive, happy, and safe. But those who can't comply with the code of conduct and those who can't fit into that definition, there is no place for them in our stadium.
Sam Stay School, MLSsoccer.com.
You mentioned that you guys have two offers, standing offers out to two different types of players. What type of profile in terms of spending are we looking at there? Is that a designated player spot? Obviously, you have one open this year. Katai, I believe, scheduled to
Well,
go
we're
on
not
next
done
year.
with those negotiations, and they may be watching us on Facebook streaming. So I'd like to not negotiate against ourselves. These are significant investments.
Any other clarity you could provide there in terms of, I mean, I know you don't need to say DP or TAM, but is it something that could be over the max budget charge, for instance?
It could be.
Could not be as well.
Juan Pimiento, 90 minutes.
Hey, Nelson. 6 months ago, the club made a big investment to move up in the draft to select John Vaquero. At the time, you talked about how the club sees him as a great fit, not only as a player, but as a person as well. 6 months later, he goes to Toronto. What happened with John Vaquero?
I would say nothing happened with Jan Vaquero. And I want to be clear. Jan demonstrated himself to be an excellent professional, even as a rookie and even as a young player. When we made the move for Jan in January, it was on the same day that we had actually traded David Atcom's services to Philadelphia. We knew that Michael DeLue and Georgie were going to be some time away, and so we saw a need and recognized a player that we thought had the talent, the skill set, and the mentality to fit and to help us. In that draft, we also took Diego Campos and Elliot Collier, who, for us, for the moment, had outperformed Jan. That's not intended as a criticism to Jan, and he's still a young player. For us, the bottom line is we think Jan still has those talents and will still prove to be a very good player. As the season progressed and we got to where we are today, and through the normal course of conversations that you have with teams, Toronto expressed an interest in him. They indicated that Nico Hosler might be available. We wanted more competition for the back line, of which we think Nico can play right back. We needed more cover in the midfield, of which we think Nico could play wide in a 3-5-2 set. And his most natural position is actually as a number 8, and where he plays internationally as well. And I think that convergence of factors led us to the decision. I also want to point out that I thought Jan was incredibly gracious upon his exit. And it's beyond almost the obligation that one feels you have to try to improve your team. We don't normally like to move a person who's so early in their tenure with us. This one just came together that way.
We'll go to Paul Banks, the sports bank.
How's it going? With Wayne Rooney joining DC United earlier this month, Zlatan Ibrahimovic coming over in the spring, obviously Bastian here last spring, the year before that. I wanted to get your thoughts on the continuing trend in Major League Soccer of the European stars in their 30s coming over to play. What are your thoughts on that for the league, short-term, both short-term and long-term? And then kind of related to that, as we're in the middle of the International Champions Cup, how you feel those games could serve as maybe a recruiting tool for European stars to also maybe make the jump in future years?
Appreciate the question, Paul. Thank you. I don't see it as a trend. I think the league is now so large, 23 teams, Cincinnati coming in 24, that everyone is doing what they think is in their best interests. And I think that's as it should be. I also think with the three gentlemen you named, Basti, Ibra, and Rooney, you're talking about class. You're talking about a high level of football. And we believe Basti has proven that over a year and a half. That's our feeling. It's the reaction that we've gotten from our fans. Ibra has clearly demonstrated his vast abilities and his personality. And I think given time, Rooney will as well. But I don't necessarily see it as a trend. I see it as people doing what they think their particular club needs at a time. In terms of the recruitment through the ICC, yeah, listen, I remember when AEG first started recruiting David Beckham, and it was on the basis of a friendly that Real Madrid played against the Galaxy in the Galaxy's home stadium. And that's what led it on, and then Beckham had a camp on the campus of their stadium fields and all the rest of it. I think it's a great showcase. I think players around the league, MLS games are broadcast over 170 nations worldwide. I think people know the quality of our league. They see the explosion of fans. They see the great environments in so many cities, and they want to be a part of it. And I think when you have news like we had today, the closure of Alphonso Davies' sale, I think it also continues to demonstrate you can start your career here, you can continue your career here, you can grow your career here. We are a league of choice. And for the Fire, we want to be the club of choice.
Thank you. Go to Jorge Trujillo, ESPN Deportes Radio.
Hola Nelson, hablabas al principio de expectativas, citando a Antonio Banderas, también ya citaste a la gran afición que tiene Chicago Fire aquí en su casa. Ustedes cuando trajeron a Bielko Panovic, ¿cuáles eran sus expectativas, sabiendo de esa afición que tiene Chicago que quiere que el equipo sea ganador nuevamente, que gane la liga nuevamente? ¿Cuánto ha llenado Bielko las expectativas del club? ¿Qué esperan de él? Y si no se gana la liga, ¿qué se puede esperar para el equipo en las temporadas que vienen?
Well, primero, para nosotros, Pano cumple con todas nuestras expectativas. Nosotros seguimos pensando que él es un gran entrenador, hoy, ya, y va a ser una figura más grande en el futuro de fútbol como un entrenador. Él es un ganador. Ganó la Copa Mundial Sub-20 con Serbia. Él tiene esa mentalidad. Pero más que agradezco de Pano es él conoce este proyecto y él quiere pertenecer y quiere dar a este proyecto. Y sabe que este proyecto no es de corto plazo, es de largo plazo. Nosotros estamos intentando de reconstruir este club y convertirle en uno que es ganador. Eso no se hace así nomás, sino cualquiera lo haría. Pero para mí sigo teniendo 100% confianza en él. Si no ganamos, bueno, O si ganamos, el reto sigue igual. Diariamente tenemos que mejorar. Tenemos que mejorar en todos los aspectos del club, dentro de la cancha y fuera. Y eso es algo que es parte de la mentalidad que Pano y yo queremos traer al club. A brief translation: what did we expect from Pano when we hired him? This is a fan base that wants a winner, urges a winner. What happens this year and in the immediate future should we not win? I think Pano's given us everything that we expect. We have complete confidence in him and his staff. I think he understood and bought into a project that was not going to be a short-term one, but a long-term one, one that requires daily improvement, one that requires us to work on our mentality inside the field of play and outside the field of play. And I still believe that Pano is a great coach today and will be an even bigger coach in the future.
Let's go to Paul Snoria, The Athletic.
I'm going to loop back to the supporter situation, and I'm going to start just, what do you think can be done to improve the relationship between the club and, at the very least, Section 8, which is the supporters group that's still recognized? Because it seems like you feel satisfied with the decision that was made regarding Sector Latino, but Sector 8 was absent from several games and, only recently coming back. Is there anything that can be done to try to bridge that gap or bring the club closer to those supporters?
I think every fan has to make a decision for themselves as to what they want out of an experience, what they want out of an emotional investment with a club. I want to be clear yet again that it's the actions of certain members that led to the current situation. As simple as that. And those actions, in our estimation, endangered the safety of people around them, indiscriminately so, without regard for those around them. And we can't have that. And Section 8, collectively or individually, will make its decisions. We are an inclusive club. We have always valued and tried to value our supporters. This year we had regular meetings with the leadership of supporter groups. We had set out a calendar with an agenda throughout the calendar year in trying to grow and develop a deeper relationship with supporters. And Section 8 was privy to every meeting with Sector Latino and every decision. There was ample opportunity there for all parties. That's what they decide to do is their decision. I don't think we've changed in our behavior or our focus.
You have a unique perspective on supporters culture in general because of your time at the league. There seems to be like a kind of a natural tension that exists between MLS and its supporters. On one hand, the atmosphere in soccer games is different than you get anywhere else in any other professional sport in this country. On the other hand, we've seen incidents with supporters in Toronto, Orlando, New York, Atlanta, Chicago, DC, all over the place where there is kind of a towing of that line where these relationships can get to a point of suspending groups or individuals. How do you try to strike that balance of wanting that atmosphere within your stadium, but also trying to maintain boundaries that the fans accept and understand, and where you have that open line of communication?
For Chicago Fire Soccer Club, it's easy. There's a fan code of conduct that applies to all fans. Supporter groups, by nature, are given extended privileges that if I could use the term, the common fan doesn't have. But those are privileges. Those are not rights. And so we used as our baseline the fan code of conduct. And you cannot, just being a supporter does not allow you to violate that fan code of conduct.
Let's go to Henry Bushnell, Yahoo Sports.
We're
were talking about Alphonso Davies earlier, and there's intermittent talk all the time about what MLS can do to incentivize the playing of young players, or even ensure that teams play young players, and specifically young American or Canadian players. As someone who's worked in the league and with U.S. Soccer, and now having also the perspective of running a club, do you have any thoughts on what MLS should or can do to sort of incentivize that?
It's first, Henry, it's great to have you, and you've added the fire to your national duty, so thank you. We appreciate that. When I was at the league office, we actually had proposed young player rules, young player minutes. My recollection was all of the coaches unanimously voted against it. I don't know if that would still be the case today. I understand both sides of that argument. If you give a player something, there's a potentially corrosive effect for the player and for the locker room in terms of our environment, or the environment we're trying to build, is competitive. It's earned. So I understand that. When you're trying to think bigger picture, and Mexico has done it, Colombia had done it in previous years. I believe Scotland had a rule for a period of time, and they point to some successes or growth in their game. Ultimately, what I think is each team has to find its way, its course, its ethos, and then the system and the competitive nature of the sport will take care of itself. It's multifaceted. It's more than that. Coaching education plays a part, rules, the NCAA, all of these factors play a part, but ultimately I think each team has to find the right course for itself.
So, I think thinking away from mandates or whatever you want to call it, specific number, like the Mexican League has done, is there anything that you see now as a club president that you think the league should be maybe encouraging teams to do, or is it sort of just an individual basis more?
It's a fair question. I'm probably too close to it from a Chicago Fire perspective, not even a club perspective. We have a head coach who plays whoever he thinks gives us the best chance to win a game. We had 5 rookies in one game this year, 4 rookies on the field at the same time in one game this year. And if I'm not mistaken, the 4 rookies at one time was against New York Red Bull, at Red Bull, and we won that match. So his view is, if you're good enough and you've outperformed those around you, you play. Ultimately, I think that's probably the best solution, but it means the underpinnings all have to improve. Academy competition, coaching within the academy, and I'll only look at us, I won't look at anyone else. I think we've improved in the last year and a half in that area for ourselves, but we still have to get better.
Thanks. We'll move it to the phone. We have Paul Kennedy with Soccer America. Paul, do you have a question for Nelson?
Yes. Thanks for having me on today. Nelson, the question I have for you regards the Open Cup and sort of how much become a priority for clubs and your experience going back to the league, how that has changed, and specifically, how do you do a balancing act between a midweek Open Cup game on the weekend? And I look at this past weekend where literally every team that played the Open Cup last Wednesday didn't win, and in your case, you had an injury that
Toronto won, Paul.
Can you speak about that priority?
I can, but I'll just mention that Toronto played the Canadian Championship midweek.
Someone had to win, I guess.
Won that game and then played us and won. So I would have preferred it to have been the other way. For our club, since Pano and I arrived, and I can't speak with knowledge to what happened prior, there are only 3 trophies you can win in a given season: the Supporters' Shield, the MLS Cup, and the Open Cup. And we believe in going after all of them. And so we have routinely played first-choice players, if not our full first-choice lineup, to try to win Open Cup games. Only the Saturday before, 2 Saturdays ago when we played at Dallas, was the first time that we used any type of squad rotation. And that was in large part also due to we had played Wednesday, Saturday, Wednesday, and then had back-to-backs with Toronto in the hottest part of the year. And so we rested some guys in preparation for the Open Cup match. Our general view is we play to win the game right in front of us. And we worry about the next game after the game in front of us is completed. We're grateful to our ownership also. You know, we've chartered for some of our Open Cup games this year because we continue to want to add a trophy to the case and be the first pro team to 5 and match the record of 2 amateur teams as well. So I think, again, like my previous answer on young players, every team has to treat it in a way that they think is best for them. For our club, while Pano and I are here, we want to win that trophy.
Thanks, Nelson.
Thanks.
Thanks, Paul. And we will start back around the table. We'll go one question each, starting with Guillermo.
Yeah, Nelson, how does the recent sale, the partnership with Joe Mansueto, impact the technical side of the club and what you're able to accomplish? And does the sale potentially provide you with more resources to help the first team?
First, I want to welcome Joe Mansueto and his family to the Fire family. I've had the opportunity to speak with him twice. I met with him once. He's a great patron of the city, a lover of all sports, a lover of this sport, and we're excited to have him. On a routine basis, there is no change. You know, Andrew remains the majority controlling owner. You know, we have outlined our plan for this year, and John Urban and I and the staff are working on a 3-year strategic plan for the overall club, which includes a sporting component of that. You know, in terms of added resources, we're the 4th highest spending team already. I know that there remains this narrative, which is a mystery to me, about our spending, but the Chicago Fire has always been in the top quartile of spend, and this year we're 4th. And if we close one or both of these deals this week, I don't know the exact numbers of the 3 teams in front of us, but we might even creep into the top 3 or 2. So, you know, for me, there's not a change. It's business as usual. But knowing the Mansueto love for the sport and love for the city, I'm sure that we'll get some additional positives along the way.
You mentioned John Urban, so I'll kind of spin off that. You had an interview where you mentioned that you guys are going to kind of refreshing the brand and identity. Do you have anything to kind of explain about that?
No, we're just still in that process, and I think refresh is the word we like. It's not an overhaul. It's not a major change. You know, it's an iconic badge. There's a lot of great history at the club, a lot of great work that came from people before John and I arrived, which we think should be honored, and we will continue to honor that. But times change. There needs to be a little bit of an evolution, and I think we need to hone in on what our voice is for today, and that's what we're working on.
Nelson, quería volver al tema. ¿Hay alguna posibilidad de, dándose una cierta situación, entendimiento, el sector latino podría volver este año o el siguiente? O sea, ¿sí o no? O sea, si hay alguna posibilidad de retomar
The
eso.
question is there any possibility that sector Latino can return this year or next year? No.
Y después quería preguntarle qué opinión tiene lo que pasó el sábado pasado. Fueron una serie de aficionados para allá, se metieron sin permiso en la sección 101, tocando el tambor, animando, pero sin permiso y violando la seguridad, que tampoco hizo nada. ¿Qué opinión tiene eso? ¿Se va a tomar medidas por parte del club? ¿Cómo ve la medida, lo que hizo la seguridad? Y cómo queda expuesto eso, ¿no? Que puedan hacer un grupo de aficionados meterse a las bravas prácticamente donde quieran.
The question is, what opinion do I have about the incident on Saturday, where a group of fans with instruments and flags went into my word, a prohibited section, but that endangered or potentially endangered those around them. Mira, no pienso que es el momento para dar una opinión. Pienso que es el momento, tenemos que revisar lo que ocurrió, cómo ocurrió, por qué ocurrió, quién pertenecía a eso. Tenemos que revisar cómo fue la respuesta de la seguridad del estadio y cómo podemos mejorar. Hasta que no terminamos esa investigación, no me parece adecuado para dar una opinión. My answer is, we need to review what happened, why it happened, who was involved in what happened. We have to review security's response and preparation for that incident, and I don't think it's appropriate for me to give an opinion until that review is concluded.
I know there's a long way to go left in the season still, and obviously Open Cup is a big chance for you guys to win a trophy, being in the Final Four. But is there any sense, given the success that you guys had last year, that this season has been a little bit of a lost opportunity with the way it's gone so far?
I don't, let me put it this way. We win 2 trophies. I don't think anyone will remember how the season started, right? So I think everything is right there for us, and it's completely within our control. It's completely within our capabilities.
So at the last roundtable, Nelson, I believe you gave the team a grade of a C.
No, I think I
So
gave
far.
myself a grade, not
Okay.
the team.
All right. Well,
And was it a C or a C plus? Did I give myself a plus?
it was well along those lines. So this time around, then, what would be the grade that you would give yourself and the team, and then what still needs to be done in order to improve that grade?
I don't think my grade has changed. Not much has changed from then to now, other than, we were below the red line, we got above it, we've slipped again. So my grade remains the same. We've made some changes. We feel good about the addition of Raheem and Nico and Nicolas as well, but we'll see. We'll see how they integrate, and we'll see how it goes. In terms of the team, I don't think you should ever grade the team until the final exams are done. And I used to have this expression at the league office: you perform the autopsy when the body is dead, not while it's still alive. So to me, there's still everything to play for. I believe in the character of the group. By my count, from falling behind to either drawing level or taking the lead, we've done that 13 times this year across 10 games. That is a positive in my mind that speaks to a portion of the mentality that we've achieved as a team, but we've only won 2 of those games. And that still also speaks to how much more we still have to go to improve.
About a year ago at this time, in the midst of hosting MLS All-Star Game activities, kind of looking back, what are your reflections of how that went and how things have changed with the club since?
Look, it was factually the biggest and best All-Star game ever by ratings, attendance, and everything else. It looks like we lit the fuse for Atlanta to try to eclipse it, which, if that happens, we will take a measure of pride in that, because we will have set a new standard that required someone to go above and beyond what we did. I think in a lot of ways that was part of the momentum that we've been feeling in the club. I've said this regularly. Results distort the overall momentum that we've had with the club, and continue to feel that we're gaining traction. By a small example, we were just nominated for an SB Sports Team Humanitarian of the Year. And the other finalists were the Anaheim Ducks, the Boston Red Sox, and then the eventual winner, the U.S. women's gold medal winning ice hockey team. It continues to show our growth as a club, even if at the moment the results aren't there on the field.
Hablabas también de que no es una tendencia estar trayendo jugadores de élites a la MLS. Aquí en una encuesta personal de nuestro programa con la comunidad latina y sobre todo la mexicana, se preguntan cuándo puede llegar otra estrella de la altura de Cuauhtémoc Blanco, sabiendo que está, y tengo otra pregunta para ello, sabiendo que pasó por aquí Pavel Pardo, sabiendo que pasó de noche Castillo, sabiendo que está ahora Richard Sánchez, que es una popularidad muy baja entre la misma afición mexicana. Pero ¿cuándo puede Chicago Fire traer otra estrella mexicana que dé lo que, sin comparar talentos, pero que dé lo que dio a la afición del MLS Cuauhtémoc Blanco, recordando que él tuvo logros futbolísticos más rápido que incluso David Beckham?
The question is, when can the Mexican fan base expect another Mexican player of the caliber and impact of Cuauhtémoc Blanco to be brought to the club? ¿Existe uno? En el momento, ¿existe uno en México?
Se habló de Chicharito.
¿Existe uno que tiene la capacidad y la popularidad de Blanco? No sé, mira, Cuauhtémoc era único y se lo merecía por todo lo que hizo. Nuestro propósito no es buscar un mexicano, un ruso, uno de Inglaterra. Nuestro propósito es armar un buen equipo que juega un estilo de fútbol que la afición aprecia y que puede ser ganador. Si eso incluye un jugador como Pavel Pardo, que a mí me encantaba, o alguien como Blanco, mejor, pero no es el propósito. Nosotros primero tenemos que armar un buen equipo que juega un buen estilo y que representa esta comunidad y esta ciudad.
La segunda, rápido, sabiendo cómo trabaja Nelson Rodríguez, que busca algo, lo consigue. Recuerdo cuando platicamos acerca de Bastian. La pregunta sería entonces, y refiriéndome al fútbol mexicano, ¿dónde estaba la directiva del Fire cuando pisó este estadio Ronaldinho? Porque poco tiempo después llegó al fútbol mexicano. O sea, ¿cómo llegó David Beckham al Galaxy?
Pero no sé si entiendo la pregunta.
No, bueno, hablabas de cómo tú haces lo necesario por conseguir las cosas. Recuerdo una plática de cómo llegó Bastian Schweinsteiger aquí al equipo, platicando con Pano. Luego hablaste, empezando esta mesa redonda, cómo llega David Beckham al Galaxy.
Sí.
¿Dónde estaba la directiva del Fire cuando pisó esta cancha Ronaldinho? Es una ironía, porque después llegó al fútbol mexicano. Me refiero a esas estrellas que pueden tener mucho peso para el equipo, sabiendo que Bastian Schweinsteiger, por la edad de él, se necesita otra estrella por 1 o 2 años.
Let me do a quick translation and also just try to work through what I think the question is. So first, when will we bring someone like Blanco? I asked if anyone currently exists like Blanco. I don't know that there's, in my estimation, a Mexican player who's approximated Blanco's status in that community and even stature as a player. It was positive it might be Chicharito. It might be. My answer to that question also was, we don't look at Mexican players, British players. We just look at good players, players that we think fit for us. Our purpose is to put a winning team on the field that plays in a way that represents our community and our city, and that's how we go about trying to build the team. The follow-up question was citing how long it took for us to get Schweinsteiger, citing the example I gave on how the Galaxy secured David Beckham. I'm not sure if the question was, where were we when Ronaldinho came through the stadium signed in Mexico? I think that's the question, but I wasn't here, so I don't know how to answer it. No estuvo cuando pasó Ronaldinho, so no puedo hablar para la directiva en ese momento. Para el futuro, para nosotros, es como lo están haciendo los otros equipos. Es tratar de crear una relación con jugadores en cual uno puede tener interés para el futuro. Y también son los acciones que uno hace ahora. Si Basti sigue teniendo una buena experiencia, eso obviamente los va a ayudar a nosotros a atraer a otra gente. Y además, Chicago es una gran ciudad. Todos quieren venir a Chicago. So my answer was, how do we attract the next great player? I said, in part, it's about building relationships and building on those relationships over time. By another part, it's if Boston continues to have a great experience, he'll help, or people will want to follow in his footsteps. And last but not least, Chicago's a great city. Who wouldn't want to play in Chicago?
Nelson, going back to the ownership situation, the new investment that's come in, does this potentially help the Fire look for a new stadium solution? Do you believe that you guys that this team can be successful here for the next 20 years, the life of the lease?
It's not part of my remit or what we're doing. Toyota Park is our home. This is the field that we have to defend. This is where we play. We have good relations with the village of Bridgeview. We have good relations with the new management company, Spectra, and we're here. We're here to play until someone tells us we're not here, if and when that time may ever come.
To build off of that, if this is the home for the foreseeable future, are there plans to build a training facility? We've seen the way that MLS has changed in the facilities that have been built in Montreal, Toronto, Atlanta, LAFC, all over the league. Is that something that the team will look at doing to try to enhance what it can sell to players to come and play here in Chicago?
Short answer is yes, but you added something, so I want to get to that as well, Paul. Improving our training facilities has been something that Andrew and I have discussed since I first arrived. One opportunity is making improvements here alongside the village and making it more expansive, adding fields, adding some other facilities here. We would look at other locations if that's possible, but we'll work closely with the village on all of that and with Andrew on that. In terms of having it serve as an attraction, I know it's the common way. I know it's the North American way. It's how Alabama football recruits so successfully. Part of that is the facilities that they have, but a large part of that is the program that they run and the people that they run. And we've not had anyone who's come here and not signed or left because they were disenchanted with the facilities. So it's also important to recognize we have all that we need, and we have all that most players want. Do we need more? I think we do. I think we're at a stage where the club needs to grow in that regard, and we'll look to do that. It could be here, it could be elsewhere, but I think we'll look to do that, and we need to grow that. Will it be a Taj Mahal? I don't believe in that, just personally. I believe we need to prepare, not pamper.
Just a quick follow-up. I know I'm breaking the follow-up question rule, but is there anything in the lease with Bridgeview that would require their permission for you to build a training facility outside of Bridgeview?
I would defer that to the attorneys, to be honest. For me, it's about, can we add, let's just start by adding another field, making some other small improvements, and then we can grow from there.
You were talking earlier about Pano and the idea that he's a really impressive coach right now, but also has a lot of room to grow. And I mean, we've seen other young or young-ish coaches, like we've seen Jesse leave for Europe, Jesse Marsh leave for Europe, Patrick Vieira, really impressive at NYCFC, leave for Europe. Similar to the idea that MLS can be a league that brings in good players, helps develop them, and then they go on to like a top European league, and MLS helps further their careers. Do you think the league could be a similar thing for coaches too?
I do. Listen, I think our league is a great place to work. Between the United States and Canada, you're working in two great countries for starters. As we just spoke about, facilities are great. The pressure is starting to grow on coaches, which and on players, which I think is part of that cauldron of growth. And I think the league is a destination of choice. So I absolutely see it. I think Patrick will do wonderful things. We wish Jesse Marsh well, someone that I've personally known for a long time. I think he'll do wonderful things, and I think that'll just continue to help the overall growth of the league.
So do you think that this could be almost a trend of, MLS clubs really turning to younger coaches and then, them moving on to big European clubs?
Again, Henry, my general view is, I already consider the league at 24 teams. Cincinnati's in, they don't play, but they're making a coach selection and all the rest of it. I think we're large enough where everybody has a chance now to pursue their model, and they have the right to change their model along the way. I don't think it's ever good for it to be homogenous. So if there were 24 quote-unquote young, inexperienced coaches, I wouldn't think that's good, just like I wouldn't think it's good if we have 24 teams that play the same 3-4-3. I think the greater variety, the better. I think it's better for the fans. I think it's better for storytelling. And I think that's the way it will become.
I'm going to check the phone real quick. Mr. Kennedy, do you have a final question for Nelson?
No, thanks very much.
Thanks, Paul. I think that wraps us up for today. Thank you, everyone, for joining. Thank you, Nelson, for your time. A reminder that the Fire next travel to take on Toronto FC at BMO Field on Saturday, July 28th. That's a 6 o'clock game on ESPN Plus and Univision Deportes Radio, 1200 a.m. Pre-game starts at 5:45 on ESPN Plus. So thank you all for joining today.
Thanks, everybody.